Hey guys, Mikey here, and welcome to Star Week Episode 1, a special videos of the Comic Junkies Corner where we're going to delve into each episode of Star Wars leading up to Rogue One, which just came out last year, towards the end of the year. And of course, this being Episode 1, we're going into Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace. We all know, hopefully most of you know the basic plot of Star Wars. The Phantom Menace is basically there's a trade blockade, and I know. There's a trade blockade. The Jedi Council sends two ambassadors trying to figure out what's going on, trying to figure out negotiations. Turns out it's just some kind of trap, some type of ruse. They're trying to capture Queen Amidala, and in their efforts to escape, their ship gets damaged and they wind up on Tatooine. This is where they bump into Anakin Skywalker. Anakin Skywalker joins the crew, and the story goes on from there. Now I hadn't seen this movie up until recently. I hadn't seen this movie in a number of years. The first time I saw this movie, I was just kind of like, I never really hated it. I never thought it was really bad. I just didn't think it was that interesting. It didn't grab me. The movie as a whole didn't grab me. There were parts that grabbed me, but the movie as a whole didn't grab me. And the second time I tried to watch it a second time to give it, upon a second viewing, I'll like it a little bit better. Because that was The Matrix for me. The first time I watched The Matrix, I didn't care for it all that much. Thought the fight scenes were cool, but I didn't like it all that much. But upon repeat viewings, I grew to like it more and more. And not so much with this one. The second time, I don't think I ever got through it all the way. And the third time, which is just recently, I just recently watched it before doing this video, I feel about the same. It's kind of like, overall, we said good parts, and not so good parts, but we'll get into that. I feel like the biggest issue was probably the story was just hard to grasp. I know the whole trade thing was kind of a ruse and everything, but it was hard to really understand what the plan was behind it, and it was just kind of like you didn't know you knew it was a plan, you knew it was kind of a ruse, but it was just I never really got I don't know, maybe just the way it was executed, I didn't understand it, per se. I understood that it was a ruse to capture Queen Amidala, but it was just kind of I don't really understand what's happening here. Things are happening, and that's all that's all I really see. And I feel like if maybe the story was twisted around a little bit, because there's a time when they get to Tatooine, there are several times where I literally forgot why they were there. And when I mean they, I'm talking about Qui-Gon Jinn. I'm talking about his Padawan at the time, which is Obi-Wan Kenobi, and Padme, who's actually Queen Amidala in disguise, because they kind of, I figure she knew they're trying to capture me, there's something going on here, so her and her bodyguard switch places, and it's pretty obvious. I hate to say that, but it's pretty obvious. It's, there are similarities, the looks are similar, but you can really tell, and Blu-ray does not do that any justice. I hate to say it, but it does it. It's just you see everything so much clearer now, and it's just yeah. I mean, I could tell before, but now I can really tell. So, because it's just one of those things. But like I said, when they get to Tatooine, I literally keep forgetting why they're there, and I'm just oh, why are you guys here? And then Qui-Gon will just have this little throwaway line that just kind of reminds you, it's oh, this is why we're here. Oh, that's right. This is what you're doing. Okay. They're there to repair the ship and everything, but they spend so much time on there. And I know it's time dedicated to developing Anakin, to try to get some little, cutesy romance between him and Padme. And it's too long. They spend, in my opinion, too long there. There's the whole pod race scene and stuff like that, and I understand why some of it happened. I understand, okay, this is what you're trying to do, But I feel like if you restructured the story just a little bit, it would have been a little bit better. Because, all right, Anakin. Anakin's cute. There's no real arguing that, it's just like, yeah, he's a cute little boy, whatever. That's fine. No, that's what they were trying to go for. They were trying to get the viewers, especially the girls. They were just kind of like to get that aw factor and stuff. But there's times where like that kind of genuinely works. Like the first time he meets, that Anakin meets Obi-Wan Kenobi. It's a cute. He's trying to be all proper, and he's like, "Nice to meet you, sir," and everything like that. And, I get it. I'm like, okay. And they kind of like Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon kind of like kind of look at each other and like they smile, but they're kind of like, "That's cute. That's cute." And I'm like, okay, that kind of works then. And you can tell like there's some points where he genuinely is just like, yeah, I mean, he feels like a kid. And he's enjoying himself as a kid, and it really works. But most of the time, I gotta be honest, most of the time that he's just saying lines. And that's distracting, because, like, I don't knock any actor for taking any job. Get that money. I don't care how old you are, or how young you are. Get that money. But it really hurt. It really hurt because you spent so much time there that it was just kind of like, you have these really good actors. You have Liam Neeson and Ewan McGregor, and they're good. But the focus, you could tell, was mainly on Anakin, and when Anakin doesn't have the acting chops yet. The little boy that played Anakin, I don't remember his name. I'm sorry, but he doesn't have the acting chops yet. So when you have to have him carry it, it's kind of painful. I hate to be that way, but it's kind of painful. It's like watching when you're, like if you were going there and watching a play or something like that, and you have this one main character who's really not good, and you're just like, I support you, but this is kind of bad. So, but it is what it is. Like I said, some scenes worked. Most of them did not work with him, and I hate to be that way, but that's the honest truth. He couldn't carry the scenes that they were there for that amount of time, anyway, that they were there. And like I said, it's distracting. Like I said, I forgot about this story half the time. I was like, what are you doing? Oh, that's right. And then Qui-Gon say something like, oh yeah, this is what we're here for. I'm like, oh yeah, that's right. It's like they knew they were taking too long, so they had him say those lines just to remind the audience of whatever. It worked. It reminded me, but it was just one of those, like, let's see. Like I said, I liked Qui-Gon. I thought Qui-Gon was the best character in the movie. I liked Obi-Wan Kenobi. Padme didn't really have much to do, but her character was kind of cool. Like, she had this wonder about her, and that kind of brings me to everyone's hated character, I feel like, so far. I don't hate him anymore. But, you know who I'm talking about. Jar Jar Binks. Is he annoying? Yes. But here's the thing with Jar Jar. I know they were trying to, make him funny, slapstick for the kids and everything like that. I know that was kind of the goal. But I feel like it would have been so much better. Now, if you like Jar Jar, hey, by all means. But I feel like he would have been so much better of a character if you had made him just a funny person. Just like, I don't want to say I feel like I'm contradicting myself here, but the problem with Jar Jar was that they were trying to force him to be funny, forced the laughs out. They were forcing it. It wasn't that they weren't trying hard with the humor. They were trying too hard to get humor. And it wasn't working. It was annoying. It was distracting. Just like he would do certain things and just like, you don't need to be here right now. But how? And even if he was if they did rewrite him as a cooler character, there was times he didn't need to be there. He could have stayed on Gungar or whatever. He didn't need to be there. But there's times where like there, especially like during the last battle, this is when I really started to think about like this character, and I'm like, how much cooler would have been if all the stuff he was doing by accident, he was doing on purpose, and, he would have been he could have been a badass character. And, just kind of like this side character, but kind of a badass at the time, like he's hanging on to the tank arm and stuff like that. And he's turning it and just shooting it at the droids and stuff like that. He gets a droid on his foot and he's like, instead of just like, accidentally triggering the trigger on the laser blast that the droid had, he drops down to the ground and he's using it against him. Like, how much cooler would it have been if everything he did by accident is on purpose? Like, he's doing all of this stuff because it would have been so much cooler. And as a kid, if I was a kid watching that, I would have been more inclined to be on board with Jar Jar than seeing him as this goofy side character and stuff. And it's just like, there were scenes that were like, when I talk about like the forced humor, there were scenes that didn't need to have that humor in it. There's this whole scene where Anakin's repairing his pod, and he tells, I was like, hey, stay away from those because he tells Jar Jar, hey, stay away from those because they'll, you get your hand caught in there, they'll go numb. So, of course, his dumbass gets his mouth caught in it, and it's just like, it's just not even, it's not funny. It's dumb. It's like, it's so dumb. And that was the problem. Like, they tried so hard to make him dumb funny that it wasn't funny. It was just real annoying, real distracting. And he would have been so much cooler if they made him just a cool, badass character. So much cooler. And I know they have quite a few of those in this movie already. You have Qui-Gon, you have Obi-Wan, you have Darth Maul. And it just would have been so much better if they just made him like not even like a super badass character, but a cool character. We got what we got. So, there's no sense in really kind of dwelling about it now, but we got what we got. Padme was like, her reaction to Jar Jar was actually the only thing that I really enjoyed because, in terms of like scenes with Jar Jar, her reaction to him was like, you're so, like, because she's seeing a lot of things for the first time, and obviously she's never seen anyone act this way. She's from, she's from royalty and stuff, so we everyone's very proper around her. And then you see Jar Jar, and she sees Jar Jar, he's like, she smiles, and with this kind of like sense of wonder, and also like, you're so odd, and she would just laugh, and she's like, she couldn't help it, and it was just like, I kind of like that. It's like, it's like she was intrigued, and I was kind of like, okay, this is the only time it really seemed to work, when she would kind of interact with him and everything. Which leads me into, since I'm talking about Jar Jar, Jar Jar is a completely CGI character. We go into the CGI. Having seen it then, I knew some of it was kind of like, and some of it looked pretty good. Seeing it on Blu-ray, the ones that were kind of like, wow, bad. Like, bad. But the ones that were kind of like, oh, that looked really good, back when I first saw it, seeing it on Blu-ray, beautiful. Gungar, when you first see it, it is beautiful. It's like, wow. If you think it looks like a video game, whatever, you can very well think that, but it's a beautiful looking video game. It looks beautiful. Sometime when they would show the droids looked really, really good. What else? But yeah, sometimes like when the CGI was on point, it is on point. They do their thing with it. But when they misstep, the Blu-ray don't lie. The Blu-ray shows all, and that's one of the problems with it. Like, you can see the makeup and stuff now, that the overuse of makeup and stuff. That's another thing. But, it's back, during a different time. This is back before super high definition and stuff like that. So, it's kind of understandable and everything like that. But yeah, when it's bad, it's bad. When it's good, it still really holds up, like better than a lot of stuff that's come out today. So there's that. So what else? Oh, here's one thing that they really, really improved upon: the fight sequences. The whole, like, how they fought and stuff, how the lightsaber battles and stuff went, much improved. Very much improved from the original trilogy. Like, it's definitely, some of these are definitely products of their time. And, we'll see that more when we start getting into episode 2 and episode 3. Some of these are definitely very much products of their time in terms of choreography and stuff. And, that's to be considered. But the fight sequences in this were really, really good. The only problem I really had was how the fight sequences ended. Because in the climactic battle with Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan versus Darth Maul. Now, they built Darth Maul up to be this big character, but he was only, like, in the movie 3 times. So, but they built him up to be like this, like, oh, he's this badass character and everything. He's only in the movie, like, the first 2 times you see him, it's really quick. It's really quick. It's a few seconds worth. And then the last 2, you get to see the battle and everything, and he pulls out the double lightsaber. He's like, it is like, oh snap, let's go. And yeah, they get the fighting. It's, man, oh man, it's just like they couldn't have chosen a better person, really. I mean, because it's played by Ray Park, who was pretty much a stunt person for everything, and he played Toad in the X-Men. But man, they had those fight sequences down. The problem is when they ended with Qui-Gon's death. It's so sudden, and he kind of goes out like a chump, because they're fighting, and all of a sudden, he gets hit in the head, and then he gets stabbed, and that's it. And you're like, what? What just happened? What just... Because it's just like, the thing was, you saw Obi-Wan's reaction, and Obi-Wan was kind of looking like, oh no, he's losing. But I never got this sense that Qui-Gon was losing, because they get separated, and it just, I never got the sense that Qui-Gon was losing. It was just so all of a sudden, it was just like, bip, you're dead. And then he moves on. I'm like, what? It just kind of happens. Now, granted, this opens up the fight scene between Obi-Wan and Darth Maul, and that one was, I thought the fight scene between Qui-Gon and Darth Maul was cool. The fight scene between these two, because because they're younger, Liam Neeson's a little bit older, but the fight scene between these two, they do their thing, and I'm like, wow, this looks really cool. But, and they're just like, they're fighting, doing this lightsaber thing, and Darth Maul hits him with the Force, knocks him backwards, and then he's hanging off the ledge. And after a while, it's just like, are you not going to kill him? Because he's mocking him. He's doing his whole lightsaber thing, like hitting against the edge and stuff, messing with Obi-Wan while he's hanging on down there and stuff like that. But after a while, Darth Maul's just standing there. And it's like, do something! Do something! It's like literally he's just standing there waiting to die. And so, of course, Obi-Wan, like, he uses the Force to get Qui-Gon's lightsaber. He flips over Darth Maul and chops him in half. And it's like, what did you expect to happen? I mean, you were just standing there after a while, and it was like, that hurt. That hurt. And that's probably what ticked me off the second time I watched it, because it was just like, these are so cool battles, and they end so badly. It's just like, man, because it would have been better if you saw a progression. You saw Qui-Gon starting to lose the battle. So it would have been like, you could have been like, oh no, along with Obi-Wan, you could have been like, oh no, oh no, oh no. And then when he finally gets stabbed, you're like, no! And, you would have been able to react to them a little bit more. But instead it was just like, boop, dead, move on. And like, you don't have a chance to because it's so random when it happens. And like, Darth Maul just goes out like an idiot. I mean, if you're going to stand there, yeah, what did you expect to happen? It's like, of course you're going to die because you did something really stupid. So, that was painful. But there was one thing I forgot to talk about. I forgot to talk about the Jedi Council because we're first introduced to the Jedi Council here. They were interesting because when you go in, if you've seen the original trilogy, you go in with an idea of who the Jedi Council is. You think that you go in with a, you always thought these Jedi was these people that you look up to. They're kind of pricks. I mean, if I'm being honest, they're kind of dicks, and in the sense like they're kind of cold, and they and overly confident in themselves because they're warned about the Sith Lord, and they're just like, no, we would have detected if there was a Sith. That's impossible. And I'm like, so you're not even going to like entertain the idea that there could be, like something. I mean, you probably could have done something if you weren't so up on your high horse about it and about like, okay, knowing that something's going on. And they're like, no, we would have detected that's impossible. And I'm like, this is Mace Windu talking, of course. And when they're talking to Anakin, I understand certain things because Qui-Gon wants to train Anakin because Anakin's has the potential to be a great Jedi, which would even like somebody who's even better than Yoda. So, and I understood certain things because this was a kid. He was taken away from his mother, not taken away from his mother, but he left his mother. He'd been with his mother his entire life. And, he's only 9, but, he's a kid. So he's scared and he's worried. And they detect that in him, and they're just like, that's where the line comes from. Well, fear leads to anger. Anger leads to hate. Hate leads to suffering. While that is profound, it's almost like they were discounting the fact, like, just kind of discounting, like, that. I'm like, yeah, he's human. He's going to feel these things. Is it your purpose to train him how to deal with it? They're just kind of writing him off automatically and stuff, and it was a little bit, it changed how I viewed the Jedi. And I didn't think that was a bad thing. I thought it was really good. I was like, this is interesting. I'm like, I don't really like you guys right now, but this is interesting. I'm intrigued by how they're actually portraying the Jedi Council. And I was like, this is interesting. I did not expect to see that. And that's one of the good things out of this movie. It's just like, it really kind of changes your view. If you've seen the original trilogy, you have this standard of who, you hold the Jedi to a high standard. When you see them in the prequel, you're like, oh wow. and you start to understand a little bit things that have happened in the original trilogy, episode 4, 5, and 6. So it's like, oh, you guys are pricks. So I thought that was really interesting. I like the way they did that. I like the way they just kind of like threw you for a loop there. And so, now some people, I understand if you didn't like that because like you hold the Jedi to a high standard. So when you knock them down a few pegs and show them who they are in this regard, you're just like, no, I don't like that. I wanted them to be who I wanted them to, who I was shown to be. So I can understand if you didn't like that and everything, but, and unfortunately had this good potential ending that it didn't end at. After they rescue Padme and Amidala, and they are at this ceremony for Qui-Gon's death. Mace Windu and Yoda are talking, and Mace is like, so yeah, this guy was a Sith. And Yoda's like, yeah, there's always two. A apprentice and a master. And Mace Windu's like, well, who did we kill? Did we kill the apprentice or did we kill the master? And then it's a slow pan scene, and they pan to Palpatine's face, and I'm like, this is where it should end, right here. This is awesome, right here. End it. But no, it doesn't. It has to end on a happy note, and they go through this whole celebration, and you see that Anakin has the haircut, the Padawan haircut and everything, so, he's going to be trained by Obi-Wan now and everything, which, I'm always going to wonder now, what would it have been like if Qui-Gon had trained Anakin instead of Obi-Wan? That always makes me wonder, because I connected to Qui-Gon a lot. I thought Qui-Gon was cool, and I understood why he defied. I mean, it's understandable why he defies the Jedi Council so much. Why they kind of see him as this brash individual. But he's right most of the time. And he begs Obi-Wan to train him in his dying breath and stuff. But I really liked Qui-Gon, and I really wonder what it would have been like for Anakin if he had been trained by Qui-Gon. So, a little interesting stuff going on there. So, but all in all, I feel like if you restructured this movie a little bit, it would have been better. It wouldn't have been as slow as it was. That was a big thing. It was slow. It took a lot of time to build, and you gotta wonder if it really built to anything. And that's questionable. I mean, it did, but it's like, it just didn't seem to flow as natural. I feel like if you had introduced Anakin first instead of the two Jedis, I feel like if you introduce Anakin, if you had that pod race right in the beginning and introduce Anakin, then go into the whole trade thing, and then, you start to build upon each other. This way you're not spending so much time on Tatooine, and you're not forgetting what the actual plot of the movie is and stuff like that. The movie is consistently moving. It doesn't just get one place, stop and rest, and then keep going, and then get another place, stop and rest. It doesn't do that. It just kind of keeps progressing along. So I feel like if you had just that pod race scene and everything in the beginning to introduce Anakin, to show him, show off his abilities and stuff, then introduce the Jedis, and then okay, there's this whole thing. They get trapped on Tatooine. They bump into Anakin. It could be the same kind of sequence of events. Bump into him, and they're just like, oh well, you have the potential and stuff like that, and they test his blood and all that stuff, midichlorian crap. And I know a lot of people don't like it. I'm not really a fan of it either, but test his blood and everything like that, and then realize he's like, yeah, I want to go and stuff, and goes on, and it would have been, I think it would have been moving a little bit better, would have kept the viewer interested. That's just my opinion. What did you think of Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace? Did you enjoy it? Did you really not like it? I don't know. Do you share any of my views on it? Whatever you think, put it in the comments below. Let me know. And don't forget to follow my friend JJ's blog at 4comicjunkies.blogspot.com. Follow him on Twitter at 4comicjunkies. Follow me on Twitter at Mr. McBlam. And if you like this video, give it a big thumbs up. And I will see you in episode 2.